Welcome everyone, this is Viking. Tonight I'll be flying the Gazelle. Without further ado, let's start up the aircraft. Close the cockpit doors. Turn on the battery, alternator, generator, and fuel pump. Start the clock. We gotta wait 20 seconds before we turn on the engine, so let's calibrate an instrument or two while we wait. That one will stop wobbling in a second, and when it does, I will turn on the stability channels and see that we're about at 20 seconds. So I'll turn on the engine, stop the clock, reset it, turn on the magnetic brake, and the trim. We're waiting for this needle to stand up and this green light to turn off. Looks like that's happened. Up here, we we disengage the rotor brake, and we turn the fuel flow lever forward to here. From a previous flight, I already had it set to about there, which is why it snapped back and forward. Sorry about that. That should bring the engine RPMs to 3,000 and change, a little bit. Now we're waiting for the rotor RPMs to sync. While we're up here, I'm going to turn on the pitot heat, switch to the co-pilot station, disengage these cover switches, flip this to travel mode, this to powered, this to standby, this to daytime, this to on. Back to the pilot. The rotor and engine RPMs have synchronized, so we can move the fuel lever further forward, all the way in fact. You want to keep an eye on this thing and make sure the rotor and engine RPMs remain synced. Engine is the long needle, rotor is the short needle. Or possibly the other way around. Sorry, I can't remember right this second. Now that we're at full power, we can turn on more things. One of them is going to be the nadir. 2 right clicks. And up here, 3 left clicks. Yes, to get the airspeed indicator. 0 because we're not moving. But I find that useful, so I'm going to turn it on for later. This should go to GM, gyromagnetic stabilization. This is your radar warning receiver. It should be turned on. There are navigation lights here, but we're really close to the enemy already, so I don't want to use them. This is going to turn on the stability augmentation system. Radar altimeter is easy to forget. Don't forget that one. Set a danger limit so that a red light will go on if you're beneath it. I'm going to say 30 meters. There we go. I'm going to flip this all the way to the right. DOF, I think is what that says. DOP. It means that my waypoint information will be displayed here, which is helpful. This is the desert. It's Nevada, so we're going to turn on the sand filter. And we're waiting for these barber poles over here to go away. They will pretty soon. This just engaged, that's good. Okay, and there we go. So if you look at the controls overlay here, I'm going to give it a fair bit of right rudder as I take off. Whoa, and it's actually really left to right, it's really touchy. As we gain forward momentum, we ease off on the rudder. And once it's up over 100 kilometers per hour, it's actually remarkably stable. Now, this thing has 2 trim systems. One of them is a button. If you push it, then wherever you're holding the stick, that's a new trim. Or that's a new default center. And the other one's a hat switch, which works pretty much the way it does with fixed-wing aircraft. Now, the hat switch trim has a full deflection. In terms of the control overlay in the bottom left there, the full deflection is 1 diamond. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, as I ease off on the cyclic, I'm going to be using the hat switch to full forward deflection. I've done that. The control overlay shows that I'm basically 1 diamond forward. arguably a half a diamond because of what the center position is, but the point is the bottom of the diamond is touching the center of the cross. And that means that with very slight collective inputs, I can keep up a brisk 163 kilometers per hour. And right now I'm not touching the cyclic or the collective. It seems like the ground is sloping up, so I've got an ever so slight climb rate, but basically I'm still not touching the controls. In forward flight, this thing is ridiculously stable. Now, let's look at navigation. The nadir is a huge help here. Currently, it's on airspeed, but if we right-click, it will give us the heading that we should be on and a time in minutes until we arrive, given our current airspeed. So this also points in the direction of our waypoint. So when you turn in the Gazelle, you got to give it a little collective, so that's why the collective's going up as I do this, and we're still losing altitude. I should have given it like a lot more, or pulled back. Both things will work. But now, and on the, on the ADI, sorry, just fixing the collective, I had way too much of it there. Okay. On the ADF here, it says that I should move just a little to the right. So slight adjustment, slight adjustment, slight adjustment. But up here on what I'm pretty sure is called the HSI, sorry if I got that wrong, it lets you very precisely find your waypoint. The instrument just below that one, good for getting a general sense of things. This is for if you really want to stay on target. I'm losing a little bit of altitude on purpose here. This thing is slow, missiles can find it easily. Being right next to the ground is your best friend. Oh, also the distance to the current waypoint is displayed here. Sorry, I'm just going to level off. I want a little bit of altitude. Not too much, but 50 meters is good for me. Okay, so it says 10, that's 1.0 kilometers. Now, because we're so close to our waypoint, I know it's a little to my left, but whatever, we're close enough to it that doesn't really matter much. I'm gonna switch it back over to the rightmost position, BUT, which means waypoint, and I'm gonna hit 2. This number changes from 1 to 2. Airspeed indicator is still useful to me, but you'll notice this thing is now way to the right, and the distance is 13.3 kilometers. I'm giving it collective and pulling back because I'm making such a sharp turn. Also because I think it looks cool. The little red light came on, so we're below 30 meters. Which is like 100 feet. We got 13 kilometers, man. We might as well scoot around. Get a little low to the ground. I gotta say, I feel like the trim has changed, and I'm not sure it's entirely up to fuel. Earlier I said the trim was at full, the hat switch trim was at full forward deflection. Okay, now it is again. But I turned it down for a second and I really climbed. I don't know, it's a little weird. We're headed in approximately the right direction according to the ADF. And we're a little under 30 meters. You know, I never really mentioned what the, like, purpose of the, whoa, sorry. I never really mentioned what the purpose of this flight, where this mission was. I mean, like, I never really mentioned the goals. Basically, there's a FARP that looks like it's about to be attacked. And they have ammo and fuel and everything, but no actual aircraft. So we're flying out there quick as we can do it. But we're currently unarmed. So once we get there, we're going to have to land at the FARP, arm up, and then take on the threat. And for reasons that I haven't yet made up, we have to do it solo, you know, so. Looks like we're about 6 kilometers from our waypoint. About 10 or 12 meters above the ground. The ground is sloping up sharply, like we gotta climb as we go. I cannot just activate altitude hold because it's barometric altitude hold, not radar. So it won't do terrain following. It'll just crash us after a little while. At this point I'm not really touching the cyclic, but I do keep my hand on the collective. To manage the altitude. We're up to about 20 meters now. That's relatively safe. It may be hard to tell, I'm not sure how well it shows up on the overlay, but I'm making small adjustments to the collective pretty much continuously, but I'm still not touching the cyclic. I see 2.6 kilometers. Alright, now, I already showed you how to switch it back to BUT and just click a button to make it go to the next one. The next waypoint is 3. If I don't want to switch it over, I can go destination, 3, enter. And the ADF switches over. Now, I figured this spot right around here is a couple of kilometers from where I was when I last took the measurement. Close enough anyway. So I'm going to come around here. Sorry, I suddenly heard the engine lose power and I'm not sure what was up with that. Maybe I nudged the collective without meaning to. Anyway, I'm releasing the cyclic again and just using the collective to manage altitude. And then pretty soon I'll complete that right-hand turn to come on target for waypoint 3. Waypoint 3 is the target area. Now that I think about it, waypoint 4 is the FARP. So I'm actually gonna destination 4, enter. Alright, we're 12 kilometers from the FARP where we can grab some missiles and go do some damage. Yeah, if I'm gonna do many more of these videos, I should probably get some of those, make it prettier mods. It's just still only got 8 gigs of RAM and I'm worried about pushing it, especially on the alpha. Maybe on the Caucasus. Now, when you're flying around at high speeds and low altitudes, you're going to be tempted to push the collective up pretty high. This is your engine torque gauge. There's a red light right about here that'll start blinking if you If you push it too hard, let me try and make it go. There it goes. It starts blinking. Alright. Blinking means you're stressing the engine to the point where you may start to do damage. If it goes solid, then you're really fucked. You have 8 to 12 seconds before your engine breaks, and heaven help you if you don't know how to auto-rotate. So be careful with over-torquing this shit. It's probably not in your best interest long-term. This is flying pretty stable. I'm going to take an external shot. Do a slight course correction here. Whoops, a little too much. You know, I think I see some vehicles in the distance. Let me just... zoom in. Yep, there's the FARP. Okay, so I see him. What I did just there was I reset the hat switch trim to neutral. It means that in forward flight I'll be a little more wobbly up and down because I'm deflecting the stick forward when before I didn't have to. But it'll also make it easier for me to come into a hover. Looking at the fuel gauge, I will not be asking for more fuel, and will just be asking for armament. Alright, we're pretty close to the FARP, so let's hit the brakes. Actually, I'm used to flying a Black Shark, so I hit the brakes early. The Gazelle is an unbelievably nimble and also slow aircraft, and as a result, partly because it never gets to go very fast in the first place, and partly because it doesn't weigh very much and has a lot of power, it's really, really, really easy to slow down. Okay, this part's a little bit tricky. Like I say, this thing is nimble, and its low speed maneuverability is like awesome to a fault. Oh, I always come down with a little bit of a thud, but it's alright. Alright, let's radio the ground crew. Give me some weapons.
Request rearming. Copy.
Oh, always feels so good when they say copy. Alright, this is gonna be loud for a second, sorry. Alright, rearming's gonna take a second. Let's take a look at the opposition here. I don't know how to mission edit, which is why the checkpoints do not properly straddle the road
Rearming complete.
Oh, shit, already. Okay, well, you know what? We're gonna blow this shit up. That's all you really need to know. Alright, back to waypoint 3, destination 3, enter. And hard right rudder. Here we go. As we enter forward flight, we ease off on the right rudder and zoom. I mean, say what you will about its top speed, but its acceleration is just top shelf. Alright, it says 7.9 kilometers to the waypoint. The range of our missile is 4.3 kilometers, so we're gonna have to get a little closer. And, you know, I mean, its top speed isn't great as helicopters go, but for going a few kilometers, it'll do, man. It's not that bothersome. I'm off course. And actually, altitude at this point is to my advantage. Whoa, I really slowed down there. When you slow down in this thing, it tends to want to spin to the left, and you gotta give it some rudder. Just like when taking off. Six kilometers. .7, we're aiming for 4.3. Alright, 4.3. Let's get into a hover. Oh, sloppy, sloppy, sloppy. Alright, good enough. So, turn this from powered to on, this from standby to on, this from travel to standby to forward, and the camera comes alive. Then we push it on over here, and then we hit the slave button, which is E by default. And our helicopter is positioned, like this is what we're looking at, and that's where it is. And when you press slave, E, it spins the thing in that direction. Let's zoom in, and because we went to the trouble of warming up the FLIR, let's just go ahead and use it. I mean, it's ideally for night stuff, but I mean, it still makes things stand out more sharply here. So, we'll zoom in, and we will select missile number 1, and we will laze the target 4,100 meters. That's 200 meters within the max range, so the missile will have guidance the whole way. I'm just gonna get it right on target because it goes exactly where it's aimed and nothing locks on here. It just goes where it's aimed. So, oh, you know what? I forgot to turn on master arm. Alright. Now I have the shoot cue down here. That means you're good to go. This is staying on target well enough that I'm going to do the external view. And slow this shit down. Fire! Let's ride along, shall we? I'm going to zoom out so it's not quite so loud. Take it up to normal speed. This thing is right on target. everybody just freaks out. Alright, so now we'll switch this indicator to missile number 2. And you seem to have stopped moving around. Let's fire. (4,107 meters). 200 meters within maximum range. Alright, now I'm going to slew it on over here, and I'm going to disable slaved. I'm going to press E. And see, the thing is, sometimes the camera jerks around as the helicopter rotates, and you only need to be within 3 degrees. So 357 here. Oh, whoops. I'll zoom out. So 357 here. 356, no shoot cue. 357 because you're within 3 degrees of center, and in this direction, as soon as you hit 4, you got no shot, but with 3, you would if you... Come on, man. That's weird. You're supposed to have 3 degrees on this side. Apparently right now, we got 1. I can't explain that at the moment, I'm afraid. But on the plus side, it doesn't really matter. You. I can steer it on the way. That's the thing, you can change it as it goes. If I want to hit near the rear, I can move it back there. If I want to hit near the front, I can move it up there. I'm going to have it hit near the center, because travel time is up. It's going to hit. It's going to hit, thank you. And unfortunately, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, that means we're down to our last missile. So, I don't know, let's bookend this thing. Who's the furthest to the right? Is there anyone further out? No, there isn't. It's just you. You're sort of a trick shot though, aren't you? Because this thing tends to porpoise as it flies. Up and down like that, right? And you're worried that it might be on a downstroke as it goes over the building, so you got to make sure that there's at least a little bit of clearance, but you don't want to aim too high, because what if it's on the upstroke as it passes over the thing, and then it'll just explode harmlessly behind. Not a problem this time, though. That was a hit. Yeah, the range on these things kind of sucks, but the warhead is beastly. Alright. Let's put things back into standby mode so that when I touch down hard at the FARP, it won't hurt too much. And, oh look, fuel gauge. It's below this mark, which means that you can turn on the auxiliary fuel tank pump and save yourself, you know, get a little bit of extra fuel into your main tank. Alright, I'm going to use the, on the lower left, I'm going to make the red things match the white things. I'm going to give it more collective than it indicates, because that's a trap. And even though I think I forgot to program in the waypoint, I have a rough idea of where the FARP is, so I'm just going to fly back there, eyeballs only. I've moved the hat switch trim into the full forward state again, so I don't need to control the cyclic. Going to lower the collective as I reduce the trim to neutral. And then increase it as I push it back to forward manually. That's so that I can go into a hover easily as I come in. I find that I gain a bit of altitude as I'm slowing down, so I like to come in as low as possible. This thing is really more hovercraft than helicopter. And in that context, its speed is actually, impressive. Because it couldn't be in any other context. Cars go faster than this thing. Like, I've been in a station wagon that went over this thing's top speed. Just saying.
Request rearming. Copy.
Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sounds like we got 2 more rounds to go. That said, I think I've shown pretty much everything I have to show. So I'm gonna call the video quits here. But afterwards, I'm still gonna finish off those BMPs. Cheers everyone, thanks for watching. See you next time.